Moses describes the land of Eden in Genesis chapter 2, but so far we've been unable to connect the rivers it described in Genesis chapter 2 according to our interpretation of that passage. So rather than to concentrate on what we do not understand, I'm going to concentrate on what we do understand and see if we can find more clues to unlock this mystery about the land of Eden. Genesis 2 describes 4 rivers, and we know where 3 of them are, the Nile, the Euphrates, and the Tigris, and it describes Havilah, Ethiopia, and Assyria, all in connection to the land of Eden. So where is Havilah? We know where Assyria is, and we know where Ethiopia is, but where is Havilah? Genesis 21 says that Ishmael and Hagar, Ishmael's mother, when they were driven away by Sarah, that they went to dwell in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took for him a wife from the land of Egypt. So it's in close proximity to Egypt. Genesis 25, 17, and 18 say that Ishmael dwelt from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest towards Assyria. Apparently it's describing this ancient system of roads, which I don't fully understand, but nonetheless, we get the general idea of its location as being somewhere between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba, kind of extending towards Egypt. In that general region is the wilderness of Paran. And so we know that at least part of Havilah is in that area. We don't know the full boundaries, borders of Havilah. We can only speculate, but we know for certain it's connected in part to Egypt. It's in that general area, and Egypt has not moved. So that ties it to that area, and some people believe that Havilah and Ophir are the same because they're both connected to gold, but they are not. And we know where Havilah is close to Egypt, and Ophir, we know, is quite a distance, quite a journey, according to the Bible, from the land of Israel. It's described in the days of Solomon as being quite a distance. But when it's first mentioned in Genesis chapter 10, it's just saying, Ophir was a son of Shem. But then later, it's a place. And that's in the time of Solomon. I think in 1 Kings or 2 Kings is the mention of Ophir as having, the highest quality gold, the most desirable gold in the world. And at that point, it's a place, which is interesting if you understand Genesis chapter 10, and it talks about they were divided in their lands after their tongue, after their families, and in their nations. And part of this division took place before the Tower of Babel, and part of it took place after. The book of Jasher says that in the early days of Peleg, the sons of men were divided, and in the latter days, the earth was divided amongst the sons of men and among the nations. The nations were formed. And so in the early days of Peleg, and this is what it's described in Genesis 10 as well, when you go through and you read it and just see what is it saying, and take your biases out and just see what is it saying. Because it mentions they were divided by their tongue, and we know they all spoke the same language before the Tower of Babel. So it's very clear that part of this took place before, and part of it took place after, when they were scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. It was enough time after the flood, and in this time the men were born that had nations named after them, like Abraham and Asher and Canaan and Cush and many other examples. Or in the early life of Peleg, these men were born that had nations named after them, and all the races of man were, at that time, these were divided into families. Were born, we all came from Noah, and then after the Tower of Babel confusion, they were scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. And so Ophir may have dwelt before the Tower of Babel confusion in a different location, but it's clear that it is after the Tower of Babel confusion. Then we're scattered to the four corners of the earth, and Ophir is named as not only a place that has the most desirable gold on earth, but also a physical location as opposed to just a son of Shem. It's interesting, I was watching a video by Dan Hurd, and he is a gold panner, and he bought a nugget bucket. And you buy a bucket or bag of dirt, you pan it out for gold, and he was doing that. But a nugget bucket is apparently where they add nuggets to the dirt for you to discover, and it gives you like at least 80% of the value. So you're not getting necessarily the best deal, but you're getting to discover these nuggets as you're panning out. And he said that he included some from Australia. And he was pointing out how the nuggets from Australia were big and they were beautiful, they were more pure, and clearly, I mean, the other gold looked dull by comparison. It got me to curious. I thought about Ophir, and so I started looking, who has the most beautiful nuggets on planet Earth, and I found a video. This guy was claiming, I haven't vetted this out, that he said that 90% of the largest gold nuggets come from Australia. I don't know if that's true, but Australia is known for having large nuggets and lots of them, and pure gold. He called it buttery, and I'll link to some of these videos for you to see, but it's just like, wow, if I was going to buy some gold nuggets today, I want the nuggets from Australia. Which, if you were to buy gold nuggets in Solomon's day, you wanted the nuggets from Ophir. This is just science. What is the chance these are the same places? Because I couldn't find another place on Earth where I could verify that these nuggets from Australia are big and they're the most beautiful on the planet. So I think that Ophir and Australia are probably one and the same. So the Promised Land, and there's other descriptions, more detailed descriptions of the Promised Land, but the Promised Land is from the river Euphrates to the river Egypt. So that's, if you take of transparency of the Promised Land and you lay it over, that's two of the rivers described in Genesis chapter 2. So, and then if you look where Havilah is, right there in that region, it looks to me that there's strong indication that Eden is somewhere in the Promised Land. Ezekial 31:16 says, all the other proud trees of Eden, the most beautiful and the best of Lebanon. So it appears to be saying that the trees of Eden are in Lebanon. The whole chapter, if you read the whole chapter, is comparing Assyria and Egypt. And it's basically saying that Egypt does not compare to Assyria. Just read the whole chapter. It's very clear in the King James. It's also interesting. It compares it to Assyria to a tree. And it sounds like, God is expressing his love for Assyria in this, and they gave shade to the earth. They grew taller than all the other trees and gave shade and nourishment to the whole planet. It was even over the animals. This was the same description given of Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 4, but said that Egypt tried to set itself up as high above all the other trees. God did not promote Egypt. They tried to promote themselves. Egypt was not an empire. We covered this in my last video, and I just wanted to make mention of that since I was glossing over it. Also in Ezekiel 31, it says that the cedars in the garden of God, and the Bible talks about, this is Ezekiel 31:8, it says the cedars in the garden of God. So we've heard the Bible talk many times about the cedars of Lebanon, and then it says earlier or later in the chapter talking about the trees of Eden being in Lebanon. So it sounds like that not only is Lebanon in Eden, but that it's in the Garden of Eden. It certainly, I have that impression from reading this. And if you just, study Ezekiel 31 in the King James and see if you come up with the same or a different impression than I do. And Joshua 3:16 identifies the city of Adam as being near Zarethan on the Jordan. It's roughly 40 miles northeast of Jerusalem. And when Adam was driven from the garden, he was driven to the east of the garden, but he was still in the presence of the Lord. And then when Cain slew Abel, he was driven to the east of Eden, said he was going out from the presence of the Lord. And so Adam was still in the presence of the Lord. His son Abel was buried somewhere close by. So Adam's not going very far from this location. It's just, he's not. So we know where the city of Adam is. There was only one Adam mentioned in the entire Bible that I can find. So this was where Adam lived. So just west of him, somewhere, should be the Garden of Eden. That in the description of Havilah, to me, in the Bible, clearly lays out it has to be somewhere in the Promised Land. I don't see a way around it. If you believe the Bible and you listen to what it says, it's pretty clear that this is the location. Now, Enoch, the book of Enoch does not mention very many places. It usually says over to this place or over to that place, but it mentions Mount Hermon and Mount Sinai. And if you look on the map and you look between those two locations, there's Israel. So everything is pointing to this same location. It's interesting, the book of Jasher said that where Eden was translated from, and I had somebody ask me this question and I didn't really know the answer, but I feel a little bit stronger about it now. Where was Enoch translated from? And the book of Jasher says that it was a place where there was a lot of snow. In Jeremiah 18:14, does the snow ever disappear from the mountains of Lebanon? So I didn't know that about Lebanon, but yeah, the mountains of Lebanon, you can look up a video, breathtaking snow mountains, Lebanon's breathtaking snow mountains. And there's several other videos that show the beauty of these mountains. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty breathtaking. And I believe that that probably is where he was translated from. There's not a whole lot of places around Israel that are covered with snow. And this one, according to Jeremiah, the snow never disappears from the mountains of Lebanon. And so that is definitely where Eden is. I feel pretty strongly that the garden was between Jerusalem and Lebanon, the mountains of Lebanon, more than likely. But we certainly know that Eden itself was in this general location, according to where the city of Adam is, according to the Bible's description of Havilah. It was somewhere in that location. There's just no way around it. Havilah has not moved. Egypt has not moved. And this is where the Lord was crucified, where he rose from the dead, where he will return. This is where the temple is. This is where you'll have to go and worship in the millennial reign. This is where they believed you had to worship. Back the woman in the well, it's like we're supposed to go worship in Jerusalem. This is a special place. The Bible, it was, let's see if I can find it. One location, I think it's in Ezekiel, where it's talking about it's the most beautiful, the best land on earth according to the Lord. I will link to that verse as well down in the description. I can't remember it. They called it the promised land. He said this is the best land on earth. And other places it says the land flowing with milk and honey. We know it today as the Fertile Crescent. And so is it better than Eden? Or is it possibly, do they share some of the same territory? And, it's where the Mount of Olives are, where the Lord will return. It's where the Garden of Gethsemane So I feel pretty strongly that's where the garden was, and I certainly know that Eden is in that general location. We don't know its exact borders, but we know that Israel is certainly in the land of Eden, according to all the information given in the Bible. And I thank you for watching, and God bless you.